Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your WFB First Alert Weather Extra. I'm Henry Blakes, and we've heard a lot about the upcoming winter storm. That's what the big weather story is across the region at this time. But for the moment, we're going to go ahead and take a look outside the door across the Baton Rouge area. Looks like one of our computer systems having a little bit of technical difficulties right now with our software. Give me just a second. I'm going to try to get that. I'm going to have to give that a reboot, folks. But for the moment, what we're looking at outside right now is, unfortunately, a little bit of misty drizzle continuing across the area. So if you just give me a minute, just have to reboot my software and we'll get the program up and running for you. But as far as any type of wet weather across the Baton Rouge area and much of the WFB viewing area, it does look like we are done with the steady rain, at least. So that is good news. But if you're hoping for sunshine for today, not really expecting much of that. The big story, however, is when we head into the weekend, and that is where our winter storm is going to be setting up across the viewing area. That is going to bring the likelihood of freezing rain to many of our viewers. And the big question is, how much icing will we get and what type of impacts can we expect? So I should have the software up and running now. Give it a sec. There we go. So now we can actually get started officially. But as you can see across the Baton Rouge area, we are still looking at some fog, especially along the Mississippi River. There it is right there, looking from Port Allen into Baton Rouge. Cloudy sky, that's going to continue the rest of the day. But for the time being, for today's forecast, clouds and a bit on the milder side, 60s, maybe even some lower 70s possible across parts of southeast Louisiana. Temperatures after sunset still in the 60s, gradually getting into the 50s after midnight. We could see maybe a stray afternoon or evening shower, but mainly misty for the time being. As I mentioned, the freezing rain, we're giving you the first alert for that across the area because the National Weather Service this morning went ahead and issued that winter storm watch for southeast Louisiana and southwest Mississippi, and that does include the Baton Rouge area. That has been issued due to the potential of some icing accumulations due to the freezing rain. Those are going to be our main concerns with this winter storm. And the big concern after the winter storm, whether you get freezing rain or not, all of us are going to be bitterly cold come next week. That's where we do have a hard freeze coming into play for the entire Gulf Coast region. So here's a look at the winter weather alerts. Anyone shaded in blue, you're under a winter storm watch. That includes Baton Rouge, Port Allen, Denham Springs into Lafayette, on northward into our Mississippi counties. Now, for the WB viewing area, southeast Louisiana, southwest Mississippi, notice that this watch doesn't go into effect until midnight Sunday and continues into 6 o'clock during the afternoon. The Chaffalay Basin on westward, your winter storm watch goes into effect at noon Saturday and continues through Sunday. Now, these could be upgraded to either maybe a winter weather advisory. Ice storm conditions, those are going to be likely mainly in northern and central Louisiana and parts of central and northern Mississippi. So as far as our accumulations are concerned, they're expected to be rather light if you get any ice accumulations across the viewing area. But notice it's not just us from the East Coast all the way through the southern plains. We have winter storm watches and winter storm warnings. Notice that's in effect for majority of Oklahoma, now just recently being issued for parts of Missouri and Arkansas as well. So this is going to be a big major event and it's going to depend on a lot of things, especially when it comes down to the track of the low pressure system. If that low pressure system remains or at least pushes a little farther to the south, then that could mean some icing conditions along the I-10 and 12 corridor. That's one scenario because the moisture would be plunging a little farther south and it'll stay around enough for that colder air to stick around the Baton Rouge area. Now, the other scenario is the low pressure system pushing a little farther to the north. That is what the trend is favoring right now. If it tracks farther north and inland, then the icing conditions will mainly be staying across central and northern Louisiana and Mississippi into Texas. So what are we looking at right now? Well, let's show you the European model. We're going to start all the models from midnight Saturday through at least midnight Monday. So here's the European model, mainly dry to start out at least midnight for southeast Louisiana, but the moisture eventually pushes eastward, and we're looking at possibly some rain, maybe a little bit of freezing rain for northern and northwest Louisiana as we go into your Saturday afternoon and evening. Mostly all rain for South Louisiana and South Mississippi. Now, the big question is, what happens when the temperatures fall, and how quickly will the temperatures fall for Saturday night and into Sunday morning? Well, the European model at least has much of the freezing temperatures remaining and pushing a little farther north into northern Louisiana with all rain across the south. But some of that colder air will try to creep its way into our region, giving us a slight chance of some freezing rain with very low icing accumulations, maybe anywhere from 100 to a tenth of an inch, but the higher amounts are going to be to our north. The American model, or the GFS model, last time checked, it was painting a different story. So I want to show you what the changes are with that. It brings some of the icing conditions into northern Louisiana, and you'll notice slowly, very slowly, trying to bring some of that freezing rain towards the I-10 and I-12 corridor. As I mentioned, a lot of the trends are favoring that low pressure system pushing farther north, keeping the icing conditions away from the I-10-12 corridor. As far as the American model is concerned, even it is starting to agree, which would be better news for South Louisiana and Southwest Mississippi. Even it has the icing trend continuing mainly for northern and central Louisiana, while the southern half of the states get all rain. Now, this is Saturday night and into Sunday morning. One thing I do want you to keep in mind, though, one thing the American model is showing is that, well, we will have to potentially watch out for Sunday night into Monday morning across the area, because there could be a little bit of leftover moisture sticking around, which may give a few of us a little bit of freezing drizzle to start out the morning. So the big story is the winter weather. As for some of the questions a lot of the viewers and residents have been asking, how are things going to be looking on Monday? Will we be able to go to school? Will we be able to drive, things like that across South Louisiana? Well, one thing I want to tell you is that anyone south of the I-10-12 corridor, so pretty much anyone south of Gonzales, anyone from our coastal parishes, Houma, into New Orleans, you're mainly going to be getting all rain. So not really over concerned about any type of icing conditions, mainly south of the I-10-12 corridor, coastal Mississippi and coastal Louisiana. You're likely going to get all rain in the liquid variety. The uncertainty starts to come to play as you get closer to the I-10-12 corridor, especially for Saturday night into Sunday morning, and possibly even into Sunday night, where temperatures may try to flirt with that freezing mark. And if the moisture is still around, you could get a bit of freezing drizzle with maybe even some light icing accumulations. But as far as the bigger accumulations, we could see some of that for parts of the Felicianas, our northern Florida parishes, and into parts of southwest Mississippi. You may get potentially a tenth of an inch of icing from the freezing rain, but those amounts are even greater as you go to the I-20 corridor from Jackson, Mississippi through Monroe and Shreveport. That's where the greater risks are going to be. So there's still uncertainty, but still nonetheless, we are looking at a more positive or favorable trend to maybe getting all rain in the Baton Rouge area. So this is something we are going to continue to monitor as we go throughout the next 24 to 48 hours. The national blend of models still giving a slight chance, maybe a light, very limited coating of precipitation, icing at that, along the interstate corridor. So let's take a look at how things are locally, because we could get anywhere from maybe 1/100 of an inch to 2/100 of an inch of light icing Baton Rouge, Hammond into Gonzales, maybe even Bogalusa. But you'll notice as you go to Opelousas, into northern parts of Point Capee Parish, the northern parts of West and East Feliciana Parish, and into southern Mississippi, These are not going to be ice storm criteria, but potentially anywhere from 1/100 of an inch to maybe 1/10 of an inch of ice accumulation likely. And there could be some spotty power outages in those parts of the region because of that, especially as you get north of new roads into Alexandria, Shreveport, and into parts of northern and central Mississippi. As I mentioned before, anyone south of Gonzales likely not going to experience any type of power outage issues, let alone freezing rain, because the temperatures are likely going to remain above freezing as long as it's raining. It's after the rain leaves for you across our coastal parishes, even in coastal Mississippi, where we'll have to watch out for the next big thing. Unfortunately, we got some bitterly cold air underway, and that's where our second first alert comes into play, folks. We are not done. This is something that's going to be guaranteed, and it's going to impact everybody. Barely cold Arctic air likely for your Monday and Tuesday, possibly even into Wednesday morning, but Monday morning and Tuesday morning are likely going to be the coldest, because look at this. Morning lows for Monday, these are the expected wind chills. Morning lows are going to be in the teens and low 20s, but look at these single digits and low teens. These are the wind chills, is what it's going to feel like. So it's going to feel like potentially single digits for new roads, Macomb, Opelousas, possibly even feeling as cold as 10 to 12 degrees for Baton Rouge into Hammond, and even down into our coastal parishes for Monday morning. So you know, with hard freeze, that's pretty much anything below that 28-degree mark. So we're going to have several hours over the morning and overnight hours of those below freezing temperatures. So that is why we're looking at the likelihood of a hard freeze for both Monday and Tuesday morning of next week. Notice not much is going to change for Tuesday morning either. We're still looking at teens and low 20s for our wind chills, and the lows aren't going to be any different from Monday morning. So with the way things are looking right now, if you haven't done so already, I know a lot of folks have already made their winter and cold weather preparations for their houses and property. But if you haven't, this is one of the cases where you need to protect all 4 Ps: pipes, people, pets, as well as plants. And this is going to be our next weather maker, unfortunately, for the start of next week. Hopefully we get all rain here across our WAB viewing area, because if we do, then we won't really have to worry about any type of travel conditions across South Louisiana. But this is something that we have to watch. Things can change quickly, as I mentioned, trending more for possibly all rain for much of South Louisiana, as the low pressure system is trending and pushing favored to push a little farther to the north. But still, that does not put us out of the woods for some light freezing rain. Maybe just not the worst of the freezing rain potential, but still we are going to keep you informed of these updates as they become available. But for now, if you haven't made your preparations, you have plenty of time, and I recommend you get it done at least before Friday, because things are going to start turning a bit more soggy on Saturday as well as Sunday. By then, it will be too late unless you want to be out in the rain. So for the moment, just stay tuned for updates on WFB. We'll be doing live streams. We'll be having information on Facebook, YouTube, as well as during our newscast. And speaking of newscasts, Jeff Morrow, he's looking and checking to see what changes are being made right now. He'll be having your updates coming up at noon, and then Dr. Steve Caparato will have more updates tonight during 9 News. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in, and be sure to watch for later updates, and I hope you have a great day.
Southern Air of Baton Rouge says no, 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 no interest, no money down, no payments for 12 months on HVAC, plumbing, and electrical services. Scan the QR code on your screen to learn more.
I'm Lawyer Locke Meredith. If you're battling an insurance company because of a wreck not your fault and they're not calling you back or being fair, whether you hire us at all, give us a call, 272-5555, or email Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. You have nothing to lose.